I'm Fred Inman, work for OakTree Supplies here in Huntertown. Actually, I think we have a Fort Wayne address, but we're in Huntertown, Indiana. I'm going to try to do a few basic tips on how to keep things on the lathe, balance things out, how to use a couple of tools. This is the new model of the 1642 jet lathe. They've come out with this one about a year or so ago. It has variable speed drive. You can move the head left to right or right to left. You can actually turn it, do outboard turning on the head. This lathe has got reverse on it, variable speed. If I were going to purchase a lathe today, if I wanted a benchtop model, it would be the 1221 VS, which is a variable speed and has all of the small, for a 12-inch lathe that goes on a bench, has everything that this lathe has. It's a jet also. This is a 1642, which means you've got a 16-inch swing over the bed. The 1221 would be a 12-inch swing and a 21-inch length. This is from here to here is about 42 inches, so you can turn the piece that's probably into 36, 38 inches long. Okay. It's got the 0 to, I think, 3,600 RPMs, 3,200 RPMs. That's the advantage with a variable speed, is you can go clear down to 0. If you're applying finishes on a lathe, you want to be able to turn it down as much as you can, apply it on so it's not throwing it off, so you can apply a piece. The other thing is this lathe has reverse. I personally today would not buy any lathe that does not have a reverse. If you're sanding in this direction, this dust is coming right into your face. So if you use some form of a dust collection and you flip the switch and you're sanding over the top of the piece, it's pulling it away from you into dust collection, you know. And if you're sanding on the lathe, you should really wear some type of a dust mask also. But I said, this is a 1642 jet. If I were going to buy a lathe today, rather than invest $1,000 or $1,500 into a little lower quality lathe, you might as well jump up to this, because this is going to be what you're after in time anyway. So if there's 3 or 4 tools I was going to buy today to get started with, okay, a 3/8 inch bowl gouge, a roughing gouge, a spindle gouge, and a parting tool. Those 4 tools should do about 90% of the turning that you're going to do. Most wood turners have a bucket full of tools, but these 4 tools are going to get you a real good start. Roughing gouge is for spindle work. A bowl gouge is for bowl work. So if you're going to do bowls, a 3/8 inch bowl gouge is a necessity. Parting tool will help you make some other cuts, take some things off. Spindle gouge is basically for finessing a piece or embellishing a piece, you know, a bowl or whatever. It's not actually for roughing down. A roughing gouge is not for doing bowl work. As a safety tip, they only usually have a 1/4 inch shank. Okay? They will break and bend at this point. A 3/8 inch bowl gouge is a 3/8 inch flute with about a 1/2 inch shank that goes clear down into the handle. So you've got a whole lot more stability. All right? And a quick safety tip is you need a 5-to-1 ratio. You need 5 inches of handle behind for every inch you're over a tool rest. So if you're an inch over, you could get by with a 5 or 6 inch handle. But when you go 3 inches over, you need a 15-inch handle back here. That's your leverage point. So that's a real good rule of thumb. You should never really be going over 3 inches over a tool rest. There are times you don't have a lot of choice, but try not to do that if you don't have to. So first things first, most important piece to me to start with is a face shield. I wear my face shield when I'm in my shop from start to finish. It's just, if you wear a cap, it's just like wearing a cap. You just need to know when to put it up and down. We're going to try a little spindle work here first. If this were a log or this block of wood, especially for new turners, you want to find the center of this, and you can use whatever. There's all kinds of tools to do it. You find the center of your piece. Especially on something that's very unbalanced, I would take and drill a hole in one end and a larger hole in the other end. At your live center, this half turns. So this goes in the center in this end of the lathe. And this will be your spur drive. The spur drive goes into the drive side. The other thing is you want to turn your lathe down all the way before you put a piece in it. If you see, this kind of goes in. It's not really necessary on a piece like this because it's obviously balanced. But if you had a log or something you were putting on, you're going to trim the ends anyways. So if you've got it on, it can't hardly come off. It's captured. You always want to turn your lathe all the way down to 0 before you turn it on. Move your tool rest, lock it in place, and always turn your piece. Every time you move the tool rest, you need to turn it one time to make sure you're not hitting. Because if it happens to catch, it could eject the piece out. So I've turned it all the way down. I'm going to turn it on. I'm going to turn it up to speed. A lot of people ask what speed. I think I turn where I feel safe. I don't look at the RPM meters. I just turn where I feel safe. This is a roughing gouge. It's for roughing spindle work only. Okay? When you're using a roughing gouge, you normally want to, I'm going to bring that tool rest up just a little bit. You want to bring it on, you want to come up to where it's not cutting and pull down to where you start to cut. And then we need a little more speed here. If you notice, I'm starting in the center and I'm working off of the piece. Especially with a roughing gouge, you never want to come on the piece, because especially on a square corner, if you catch that square corner going on, there again it wants to eject the piece up or take the tool out of your hand. While it's running, if you want to know if it's round yet, if you lay your tool on top, it'll rattle. It's still, there's still a flat edge there. So there we basically have a round object to do spindle work on. Okay? Parting tool is another tool that's used quite often on a lathe. A correct way to use one, especially for marking, if you want to do individual markings on this. If I want to cut something here and here, here. You take the tool, lay it on top of the tool rest where it's not cutting, and then pull down. going to mark out one more place here real quick, like talk about marking out. We're going to do beads and coves on spindle work. So we've marked that off a little bit. You're going to take your tool, put it up on there, ride the bevel, which is the bottom of the tool. All cutting tools have a bevel, and you need to learn that where that is. The whole time I was cutting, you notice it was actually cutting. It's not just shearing by just poking the tool into the wood. So it actually is a rolling action. If you're doing spindle work, it's something you just need to learn to do as time goes on. The lower's a cove, the upper part's a bead. You normally want to start on the top and roll your tool down. The thing about a spindle gouge, it will only allow you to cut so deep, then you have to go back to the left side, back to the right. So you can't go clear through a piece of wood all to the left. You're going to have to go back and forth until you get to your depth. Start on the top, and you want to roll that tool down. So you're cutting the whole time. Always turn the lathe off before you move the tool rest. You see I get to a certain depth and the tool actually will stop cutting. So you have to come back to the other side. This is, you're actually going to be cutting on the edge, not out on the point. If you're cutting on the point, you're actually just scraping, you're not cutting. You need to be cutting on the edge, and all tools are the same. It's not to a specific tool. And you'll find several people will grind their tools differently, so it's a grind that you get familiar with.